started. We have Mitch on the bottom, Jody up top here, both playing Azorius decks, but two very, very different decks. Jim, we got a long day on our hands. You know, these players are playing their first round of what they hope to be of 9. You know, how are the nerves when you sit down for this first round?
I feel like the nerves are typically in the player meeting.
Yeah.
Once you sit down, you shuffle, you draw your hand, you play your first land, things, at least for me, kind of tend to slow down a little bit. Like, okay, now I'm doing the thing that I'm used to doing, you know, and ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, if you're prepared with your deck, playing the first land and stuff, you're like, oh, okay, this is all good. If you didn't prepare enough, you know, maybe the nerves continue on.
Sure, for sure.
All right, so we have 2 lands here, and there you go, the one of the legendary artifact here, getting the Crag down.
Yeah, this is the nut draw, if you will. We have turn 1 Crag into the Candy Trail and the Scrying. And the Scrying here is really important to just try and find Battlefront or Synth. You know, this deck is so hell-bent on the synthesizer, just getting it in play as soon as possible, getting as many in play as possible and as fast as possible.
Yep, totally agree with you. Does the deck, like, you know, lack to do other meaningful things if you can't find the thing? Is it that bad or not quite?
It just runs the show. You know, where, like, you know, without it, you are kind of spinning your wheels and just kind of, you know, you snare a thing here, you saw blades a thing there. But every part of this deck is built around getting the synth in play, making these huge tokens, and it turns the corner really quick, too. Yeah. You know, once you play a synth or two, you just have 4 10-10s in play, and that ends the game very, very fast.
Yeah, very quickly. All right. Nothing too crazy for our turn 3. And then Jody with no card advantage, any ways to get Omniscience into the yard quite yet. Starts with the stock up. And, you know, there's those fresh sleeves in the morning.
Oh, boy.
You know, the one thing you really want to be doing from the Omniscience side is kind of putting your opponent into check kind of thing. When you have Omniscience in the board, your opponent just usually has to play very different from there on out. You know, when you know Omniscience isn't coming back, you can play a little more free, tap out a little bit. But, you know, when your opponent goes turn 2, rolling Dragonstorm, puts Omniscience on the board, the rest of the game revolves around being scared of it.
Yeah, and that has a lot of instant speed stuff,
and there
too.
It is.
There you go. The new River region is able to instant speed, moment of truth. So you're never fully safe, even if they don't have it there yet. They can end step, discard it, put it in, and go off immediately. So a lot of danger, the typical combo danger from this deck for sure.
Yep, absolutely. All right, and there is the Repurposing Bay, birthing pod, essentially, for artifacts. But no land drop there for Mitch, so a little brutal. And here it is, everybody. Here's the amazing combo. Abuela's Awakening Omniscience is now a 1/1 flyer. And most of the time, the game is just straight over. Now, some lists, Jim, have went away from the combo, the invasion. And that is what Jody is doing here. Why would we do that? You know, like, why not play the win? You can just win the game enough with enough river regions, I guess?
So there is actually a combo here.
Okay.
So the deck used to play the battle, which is a combo card that only has one purpose, doesn't do anything else.
Yeah.
Now the deck gets to play the River Region, which is a card draw spell. It's also a dragon that can bounce 2 things. It plays Whirling Dragonstorm, which bounces every play a dragon and allows you to loot. And then it plays 1 copy of Founding the Third Path. So the goal is you keep bouncing through your deck. You get 2 dragons in play. 1 bounces the other dragon and the Whirling Dragonstorm. Okay. You keep looting and drawing and looting and drawing. You find your Founding the Third Path. You play that on read ahead to mill your opponent for 4. And then you play the other dragon, bouncing the Saga and the other dragon. And now you just go, again, mill 4, play a dragon, bounce both, mill 4, play a dragon, bounce both, and then you're going to have a mill kill.
Oh, that is awesome. Okay, and that makes a lot of sense. You know, this is the fine-tuned version of the deck because those cards are bad. You know, having to draw that 5-mana invasion is no good. So looks like Jody explains exactly what's going on here. And we're heading to game number 2. I got to say, it looks like a rough matchup here, at least game 1 for the Azorius Artifact side.
That is the one downside of this Azorius Artifact deck is that it plays primarily at sorcery speed. You know, it is putting a lot of things in play. It's not interacting super well if you're on the stack, you know.
Yes.
Whereas, you know, there's a lot of removal spells in here, Day of Judgment, Perilous Snare and stuff. But you can't really do much about the combo here. Sideboard-wise, we'll see a decent amount more. We've got High Noon is a really cool one. Only allowing for 1 spell to be played. That can slow things down. Rest in peace. And we see counter spells on the board, too. We see 3 steps ahead, negate, spell pierce. So a lot of tools are coming in. The big issue is that without an early synthesizer, this artifact deck can't apply that much pressure.
Yes.
And the key to beating combo decks is always pressure plus interaction.
Yep.
So we're going to be really, really dependent on finding that early synth, on tapping, and then leaning on both these prison pieces as well as the counter spells.
And then from Jody's side, what do you like here? I see Voice of Victory as kind of the anti-counter spell thing. That makes a lot of sense. What else do you like?
Yeah, Voice is huge. That card's phenomenal because it does two things. It turns off your opponent's ability to interact, be it counter spells, instant speed, enchantment removal, or whatever else.
Yeah.
It's also just a threat. It attacks for 3.
Yeah.
Like it's a Watch Wolf, So the fact that
you put 2 of those out there, you're going to die pretty quick.
Right. So being able to apply pressure forces them into a spot where they need to act as well. So those are great. There is some transformational sideboard stuff happening here if Jody wants it. Overlord of the Mistmoors, Beza. I don't think there's enough hate coming in from Mitch to want to necessarily go completely in that route, but we got a negate or 2. We got to get lost for the high noon, So I think most are going to be hedging here, bringing in the voices, bringing in a few counter spells if you get lost, kind of stuff like that, and then. Again, this is where open deck lists are really, really huge.
Yes.
There are a wide variety of cards Mitch could have here. We see the High Noon, Rest in Peace, the permanent-based stuff. We can see Ghost Vacuums. You can see counterspells. We can see a whole bunch of different things. And Jody knowing exactly what is coming in is very important.
Yeah, so I want to ask about the transformational sideboard as well. Does this kind of plan lose a lot of its luster in open deck list tournament, or I can see it going the other way as well, where your opponent leaves in maybe too much removal and you don't bring it in. Like, is it an advantage or disadvantage for a transformational sideboard to be open deck list?
It's a really, really fun game of chess.
It is a game of chess, right?
Yeah. I think that, we're not seeing the full transformational sideboard. It's just a few threats, where, you might leave a good part of the combo in and bring in Beza against mono red. Or maybe you bring in the Overlords against a more mid-rangey matchup to have a threat that can win the game by itself. The goal is almost like to distract your opponent and be like,
yes.
You see this Overlord? Look at this for a little bit. Don't die to this.
Shiny red ball over here.
Exactly. Well, look at the ball while I set up my combo over here.
Yes.
So I don't think we're really going full transformation here. I think that in a spot where if Jody sees an opponent with 4 negate, 3 spell pierce, 4 rest in peace, 4 high noons, you can do that. But we're more of a little seasoned to taste here.
Okay, I love it. So this is, of course, the first U.S. Regional Championship here in the United States. We do have a second one that's going to be a couple weeks from now. This is going to be SCG Con Hartford. So this will be our second stop for Standard for the Regional Championship. So show up in this city. Whether you're qualified or not, there's a ton of cool things to do. You might be seeing Jim in the Friday Secret Lair events. If you show up, we can't get Jim away from these Secret Layered Seals events, so you love them.
Mystery Bush is really, really fun.
Yeah.
I opened a foil Goblin Charbelcher yesterday.
Oh, yes.
Just cool. I don't know, just fun stuff.
Give the Goblin Guide the Goblin card, Yep. I love that. But yeah, Hartford is going to be the second regional championship, so make sure to go to StarCityGames.com/SCGCon if you want some more information on that. You'll see us there. We'll be in the booth together, chatting it up, talking to you about, is it became so good that it took everything down and the percentages grow, or maybe if another deck came up to prominence and ends up dethroning it. It'll be really interesting to see how the meta shifts between this one and Hartford in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I love having these events, event, week off event. They're in close enough proximity where we can see a lot of development, but they're not so close where it's going to blend together,
Yeah.
The 1 week break is perfect. We'll see some online results. We'll see people reacting and trying to figure out how to beat Izzet and how to change the format. And then I'm super stoked to come back and do it again in 2 weeks.
100%. I mean, we saw it from the last one. Our last RCs was really all about Breach. Was it too good? Can it be beaten? We figured out, no, it can't be. I don't think Izzet is anywhere like that, though. So we'll see if people come prepared for the deck and there's a lot of hate today in the room, or if it dominates and then the hate comes next week. So here we go, starting it off, getting the Iron Crag down, a little bit of ramp.
Play 4 for a reason.
Yep. And just the land pass here from Jody, maybe representing some kind of counter magic, but Mitch more than likely just has to jam anyways here before Jody will have access to 4 mana.
Yeah, so this is Mitch's best possible draw. We have Battle Frontier on turn 4, and Jody has Spell Pierce on the board. Jody has Negate in the board.
Yeah.
This is not a matchup where Mitch can wait. Mitch has to get in the board, has to get going, and be able to put a threat in play, and then lean back on the interaction that Mitch does have.
Ooh, synthesizer and rest in peace.
That is nice. Woo.
That is a combination. So rest in peace will, of course, get rid of the graveyards right now and any future graveyards. So now Jody not only has to set up the combo by getting it to the graveyard, has to first free the graveyard.
Yeah, I assume we're asking right now, where does the Battlefront go at rest in peace? So if the spell is solved, I believe it would go to exile, but doesn't really matter too much.
Doesn't matter because then it's going to go to exile with the trigger on the stack anyways, right?
Correct. So I would assume that's what we're asking, but maybe not.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the cool thing about this Battlefront card is the they were not randomized.
Okay.
Gotta keep things in order here. Don't want to get too out of line.
All right, yeah. That's going to be very important when we draw our next 48 cards.
Yep.
And then it's not even in exile. Love it. All right, so we got synthesizer down. We got rest in peace down. So we're kind of all ready to go, huh?
Yeah, this is great. Now, typically rest in peace against the Omniscience deck and other graveyard decks, you at times want to wait on it and try and play it so you can get some things from the graveyard, have a Tormod's Crypt effect. Then if they destroy it, you got some value off it at least.
Yeah, you can eat an Omniscience maybe, yeah.
Right, whereas Jody could end step get lost this and kind of move on with his day.
Yeah.
But obviously on the Battlefront, you're still taking it.
100%.
It's fantastic. And the synth in play is huge. Now, we see Mitch go next turn play a creature or two, get an artifact in play or two, and now that's the clock that Mitch needs to close this game out.
Yep, absolutely. So, and of course, synthesizer only triggers off artifacts entering that are 3 mana value or higher, so rest in peace would not trigger it there. But hey, that's the nice thing. If you get 2 of these, you get 2 constructs along with them, huh?
Yeah, that's the big part of breaking serve on this card, where synth has been a little too slow on the draw. You cast synth on the draw, you kind of just fall too far behind.
Oh yeah, a 3 mana do nothing essentially.
Right, being able to put a synth in play with another artifact, make the tokens immediately.
Yes.
is it breaks parity in the card phenomenally.
Yep, 100% agree. So we saw the get lost, rest in peace is out of there, so Jody can start filling the graveyard once again. Moment of truth to try to ideally get Omniscience into the yard. Doesn't find it, so no matter what, Jody will need at least 1 more setup turn. So now Mitch has that window to play another rest in peace. We see a synthesizer in hand to start the pressure or have any kind of disruption to break up the combo. So things looking good for Mitch.
Yeah, the big thing for Mitch to notice here is, of course, Jody main phase that moment of what's it called? Moment of truth.
Moment of truth, yeah.
Probably looking for a land,
Probably, yeah.
So that means Jody might not have the counter spells in hand, and also might need to find some lands. And if Jody needs to find lands and combo pieces, that's a lot to work towards.
Normally, I would totally agree with you, but when you have a meticulous archive, you just want your scry to be true. So if you scry first and then moment, that's probably not ideal. I guess you get 1 more look at Omniscience, but Jody could have also been trying to do that.
That's fair.
The one thing that's pretty nice about get lost on your rest in peace, of course, you'd rather have your rest in peace, but getting 2 maps, these are supercharging these constructs.
Yeah, a lot of extra artifacts in play. And
now Mitch did do something that I think players should very much take away from here. Only sacked 1 map, left open 1 blue. Would your Spell Pierce senses be tingling now? Or
absolutely, yeah. The choice of it's funny. The maps give you the ability to tap any amount of mana you want in your turn, spend all your mana.
Yeah.
And when you don't do that, you are certainly telegraphing certain things.
Yep, absolutely. That being said, there's 1 Spell Pierce in the 75 for Mitch, but it does seem like he easily could have it.
There's also an amount of just wanting to leave the artifact in play.
Yeah,
two synths in play. That's worth 2 power for every new trigger. So.
Yep, very true. So Rolling Dragonstorm puts the incredibly powerful 10 mana enchantment into the yard. What a world where Omniscience is a playable card in Standard, huh?
Not only that, but legal for the next 5 years.
Wow. Yep. Okay.
Yep.
Fair enough. That one's going to be around for a while. So. One thing that's a little awkward here for Mitch is Mitch has in hand Perilous Snare in multiple numbers, has another one in hand, and this one's not great against Omniscience. The fact that this is a quote-unquote answer for Omniscience is kind of a pipe dream here.
Yeah, there's very mild value in removing the Dragonstorm.
Sometimes negative value.
I mean, it gives Jody a slight chance to whiff. I mean, I maybe not. I don't even know. It's just.
But it can also get lost, and they get to draw cards again.
That's true. That's true.
So. Oh wait, no, artifacts can't get lost, right?
Right. I mean, it can be bounced by the dragon or whatever else.
Sure.
So for sure, it's pretty thin. The most important thing is here: 2 more constructs, a lot more artifacts in play. Let's end this game.
Yep, 100%. So this is going to be the big turn for Mitch. If Mitch has a negate, and Jody doesn't even have 2 mana available to pay. Nope, doesn't look like it. So if we have a negate for this Abuelo's Awakening and there's no Spell Pierce, we're probably heading to game 3. But if not, here we go. We could be all done here.
All right,
there it was.
That's the formula, pressure plus interaction.
And, I mean, there is that Spell Pierce, y'all. So, I mean, those kind of, lessons that you can take away from watching a player play, from recognizing, why would you not sack the other map? You learn a lot about, what your opponent's doing. Players bleed information constantly. So if you can pick up on these little things, they'll make you a better Magic player at the end of the day.
And the next level of that is like, well, what if I don't sack the map so they think I have spell?
Yes, yes.
And that's where Magic gets really beautiful.
Agreed. And I think, you see those plays a lot when we get to the Pro Tour, from the top echelon of players. Your average player that you play against, you should take the information they're giving you at face value is kind of the thing I've been learning. But, yeah, if they next level and get you, those are the stories you talk about at dinner,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right, Jim, any changes, play, draw, or is this a matchup where you're like, you need X in, you need X, Y out?
I don't think so. For Mitch, that game went to script perfectly. Turn three Battlefront, finding a hate piece and a synthesizer, had a little bit of interaction. That's exactly what Mitch wants to be doing. So for Mitch, do the same thing. Now on the draw, a little bit harder. Yeah. Because, of course, the threat of a turn 4 Abuelos looms large. But for the most part, just more of the same.
More of the same. Perfect. Yeah, I really like the look of this Omniscience deck now that it doesn't have to play Invasion. When you're playing a A plus B combo deck like this that relies on the graveyard, you can just naturally draw too many Abuelos, too many Omniscience, ends up being not great. But when you add in the fact that you're playing a 5-mana Invasion that realistically is a 5-mana cantrip, when you don't have the combo, when you can't get the Season of Weaving and stuff like that from the board, I end up liking the deck a lot less. But this looks nicer to me. This deck looks sweet.
Yeah, the Dragon is huge. Meringue River Regent / Coil Catch. Sift as an instant.
Yeah.
Like Rainer Revelation, I think it's called, in the Modern Horizon set.
Sure.
It's just like a pretty good card. And then when you attach that to a 6/7 Dragon, pretty good body, bounces 2 things. Like, it is possible for Jody to just win games normally. Play a Dragon, play some kind of control stuff, play a Dragon or 2, and just win the game like a control deck would, where that was not possible at all with the old versions of a deck.
Yeah, totally agree. And the fact that it shuffles back in, You're never going to prevent yourself from decking by design with the card because you eventually will have to draw 3 cards, I guess if you have all 3 river, no, that couldn't work. But, that kind of stuff does help you late game draw the River Regent side that you want to cast after you've been sifting, for turn after turn. That can actually be, really cool. So we talked about Hartford. That is our next event that we're going to be seeing in May. The one at the end of May is going to be SCG Con in Indianapolis. This is our next spotlight. Jim, walk us through this one.
Yeah, Spotlight Series is great. Obviously, the regional championships are awesome.
Yeah.
But you got to qualify for them. They require a little extra work, a little extra investment. Spotlight Series, show up and say, let's play. Let's play some Magic. Let's rock and roll here and try and get to the Pro Tour, get some great prizes. This one has a very unique prize, actually. The first place prize, the person who's able to take down first place gets to consult on a future secret lair.
Wow.
Now, we don't know exactly what that means. I would assume choosing the art theme, maybe choosing some cards. Don't quote me on anything.
Yeah.
But that sounds phenomenally awesome. So aside from all the great prizes, 8 Pro Tour slots, that's a really cool prize too. So we got end of May, the 30th into June 1st, SCG Indy. Of course, all information, as always, is on StarCityGames.com/SCGCon. It's going to be awesome. Yep,
going to be a lot of fun. That format will be modern. It'll be our first look at a major modern event since they took away a totally fair and reasonable card, Underworld Breach.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how the metagame adjusts for that one. That should be a lot of fun. Make sure to head on out to one of my favorite cities to play Magic in. I love Indianapolis.
I also love Indy. I've been there probably 8 dozen times.
Same. I've been there as a player maybe 8 times, and quite a few times as a commentator as well. Beautiful city, great convention center. Really a lot to do in the area. So make sure to join us, StarCityGames.com/SCGCon for more information. But let's get back into this here at the Regional Championship. Looks like we got Mitch on the bottom taking a mulligan. Jody keeping 7 on the play. Not what you want in what seems to be a bit of a rough matchup here for Mitch.
I mean, honestly, I think a mulligan is a very powerful tool for Mitch.
Yeah.
I think a lot of Mitch's cards just don't matter very much.
Yeah.
So it's just about honestly, finding the Iron Crag, finding Battlefront, finding early synths, and then finding some interaction. Like, the deck really, without Synthesizer, doesn't really present much of a clock at all.
No.
So you got to have synth. You must have that going on as well as some interaction. So I don't think card quantity matters that much here, honestly. If I was Mitch, I could see even going down to 5 and just really looking for a really, really solid hand.
Yep, rest in peace into synth or something like that to really get it going, that's for sure. But the one big disadvantage that Mitch has now is that turn 2 rest in peace can just be countered now in a plethora of ways by Jody, or it can still be get lost. So it does get a little bit trickier.
For sure. Not ideal.
Yeah.
But.
All right, we got some lands. Perilous Snare probably heading to the bottom of the library immediately. I believe that's that Spell Pierce in the middle.
Yeah, I mean,
then
a Battlefront there too, I think. So.
Yeah. So perfectly functional hand. And we're underway here at our first match here of the day. If you're just joining us, thanks for joining us throughout this day. We got 9 rounds today. Going to be a long day of playing Magic, but a long day that I'm very much excited for. Looks like a 3 steps ahead instead of a Spell Pierce there as well.
Good news for Mitch here is that Jody didn't just slam Omniscience into the graveyard.
Yeah.
Whenever a Surveil land gets to Entomb for 1 on turn 3,
oh,
it is
God.
turn 1, it is unbelievable.
So busted. So busted. That's when you slow roll and be like, I guess I'll put it in.
Yeah.
I want to say we put the Perilous Snare to the bottom, drew it right away.
Of course.
Classic Moto Bugs. And there is the voice of victory. No interacting on Jody's turn, but, you know, that Perilous Snare is going to be pretty solid here. So I think now the big pressure point is going to be if Jody can set up, put an Omniscience into the yard this next turn, while Mitch literally has to deal with Voice of Victory to be able to interact, and then can just get the combo into play. That seems like it's Jody's game to lose if he has the nut draw from here.
Yeah, it's funny how, like, typically the player playing against the combo deck is trying to layer up these, like, things you need to get through.
Yeah.
You know, your combo is steps. I'm going to add a step to it. I'm going to play a High Noon. I'm going to play Rest in Peace. But now Jody's adding a step where, hey, if you want to interact with me to play your hate stuff, you got to deal with my hate stuff too.
Yeah, 100%. Great card. Great annoying card to play against, that's for sure. So in the tank here, looks like we do have the choice between High Noon and just getting another land. Or, of course, the ever-busted Candy Trail.
I do like candy.
Trails to find your candy as well?
I mean, do what I got to do, man. Do what I got to do.
You can usually follow the trail of candy wrappers to find you, right?
That is correct.
Okay, there we go. All right, so here is the attack. Gets in a nice hit for 3. This will be going away. But now, I mean, Mitch didn't deal with the voice or do anything to prevent Jody. So that was not an ideal turn. And this is going to be the big spot. If Jody has land 3 and an Omniscience going to the yard, you got to put a huge advantage bar towards Jody Keith.
Yeah, this is what I was saying about having a good hand. You know,
Yeah.
you can't really waste time with Candy Trail and stuff like that in a matchup like this. You just have to have your cards ready to go.
Yep.
Well, good news here is that we're not slamming Omniscience into the graveyard again, so.
Yeah, you got to think you don't have it. That's just the easiest. I will put this here. And Temporary Lockdown comes down. It's a pretty nice one against a bunch of constructs. Even if it gets dealt with, like, it's still going to clean up a lot of things.
Yeah, it's definitely a temporary answer, but one that can buy a significant amount of time.
Yeah. That's why the card's aptly named, huh?
I know, right? Kudos to the Wizards design team for naming that one right.
They figured it out.
They
really figured it out.
Yep.
So no Omniscience into the yard, though, so Mitch does have the ability to be able to find an answer here for this voice. We saw that snare. Makes a lot of sense to just get rid of that because we have 3 steps ahead as well to be able to hold up next turn. But then we are in this. Oh, that's a nightmare.
Boy.
That's a nightmare. Spell Pierce just looking phenomenal. And I was just going to say, even with the snare dealing with the voice, it's not that good when you just have to hold up 3 mana for the rest of the game. You know, you need the pressure here from Mitch, so Mitch is in a lot of trouble.
Jody's on a Zorius tempo here. Just playing threats, playing spell pierces. Yeah, but Mitch has a lot of work to do. You know, Mitch has to be able to get a threat in play, apply some pressure, and then untap safely for the counterspell, and get rid of the voice too. So there's a lot of hurdles for Mitch to get through.
Now make sure to not label this deck Azorius Tempo here in the tournament. Nick Miller will shed one full tear if he's got to rename more and more decks. So.
And we're not kidding.
He
will actually cry. Please name your deck the proper name.
Exactly.
It's not funny. No one's laughing. Go control. We get it. This is what I was saying about the voice being a clock, too. Like, in a game like this where things get kind of messy and slow down, you think, turn 4, turn 5, combo or no, but this is a messy game. And 3 turn's a lot. It really adds up.
It really is. So we're just sacking the candy trail here. Trying to draw a card and hit a land. We did hit one. We didn't have land 4, I don't think, from Mitch. So Mitch took a real risk here because Mitch has High Noon, has Get Lost. So if you don't hit a land, you just go sack candy trail, go. But Mitch recognized, hey, I'm far enough behind. I need a land so I can not only play a spell this turn that matters, and then start double spelling. So I actually really like that risk from Mitch.
I strongly agree. Yeah. There's no time to mess around here. You know, like you just got to get going.
Yeah.
And if you miss the land, you're in trouble anyway. But if you don't go for it, you're also in trouble.
Exactly. So at this point, you look and be like, well, if a land's not here, I'm in trouble. But you don't even think that way. You're like, a land has to be there. I need the land drop. Otherwise, we're not playing anymore anyways, you know?
Yep.
3 mana. The deck is just all card advantage in the combo, plus a couple sideboard cards. So this is going to be what Jody Keith is going to pretty much be doing all day, drawing a lot of cards, putting a lot of cards in his hands with stock up. Also, what an incredible card this has proven to be.
Oh my God, yeah, it's so good in control decks, even the tempo decks, but in a combo deck, oh man, being able to find the right pieces gets you just gassed up so much.
Yeah. I can't stop playing blue-white control. I've just been having an absolute blast in Standard. And stock up is not even the best there like it is in these Azorius Omniscience deck. And it's still incredible there. So, yeah, big fan.
Yeah, phenomenal card. And the thing is that, like you're saying, every card in Jody's deck is a stock up or a search spell or a Meringue Reaver Regent. It just, every turn that goes by, Jody's hand is going to get a lot better.
Yeah.
And then a lot better. And then a lot better. So, and if Mitch isn't applying any pressure, Jody can really craft the perfect hand to be able to beat anything.
Yeah. And I mean, I even think like here, if Mitch goes to play something like this gets countered, and then Jody just slams the River Regent next turn, like that's probably going to be enough,
Right.
So, all right, it resolved. We're finding some stuff. Do we have Rest in Peace? I saw 2 Iron Crags, that artifact that searches the land that I forget the name of.
Clay-fired bricks.
There we go. And I think that's it. So not great hits here. You go and you get the planes. I don't believe we've played a land this turn, but we've already played our spell this turn, and you can't play spells in your opponent's turn. So the old High Noon victory is kind of a bit of a nombo there.
Yeah, this is sort of like casting Company for a Line of Elves in a Bird's Paradise.
Yeah,
where
it really is.
Is it a hit? Yeah, technically, I guess. we did hit. We didn't whiff, but not so good.
Not good at all. And the fact that we can't even play this Get Lost or something, ideally Mitch would want to go, Get Lost the voice first, I guess, but then you're still not casting anything. So High Noon is a great card against the combo deck, but it has its costs as well.
Yeah, you want to try and sequence it after you've gotten your pressure on the board.
Yeah.
But obviously Mitch had to play it here to make sure we would be dying. That's not bad, though.
Yeah. So now you can end step Get Lost. So, it's not amazing, but it's nice. I mean, I think you should, right? Yeah.
You can't do it on Jody's turn, so might as well cash it in.
Everyone gets some maps. Okay, but still no Omniscience in the yard, but we are at the point where Jody's untapping with 6 mana. So this could always mean 2 mana way to put something into the yard, Rolling Dragonstorm, Moment of Truth, and then Umbrello's Awakening to win the game. Or, of course, when in doubt, stock it up.
Yeah, and I like how Mitch was playing this game, honestly. There's a lot of, times against a combo deck, you kind of just grit your teeth and just tap out.
Yeah.
Grit your teeth and just try and draw that land. Grit your teeth, and, because you can't play around the combo at all times.
100%.
You can, but you're not going to make yourself win the game by doing that very often. You know, you understand that you need to hit a certain point and then set up your own things and then interact. And that means going shields down sometimes.
Exactly. Against combo decks like this, you can play to not lose for a lot more turns if you do it that way.
Right.
But it doesn't mean you're ever playing to win. And then you're just delaying the inevitable. And as a combo player, I'm like, yeah, take all the time you want. Eventually, I'm going to line up Umbuelos with 2 negates and a Spell Pierce. Good luck, you know?
Yeah, you know, opponent casts 4 stock ups. They're probably going to have what they need at that point.
Exactly.
Oh, little flippies.
Yeah, new sleeves in the morning. Yeah, when the nerves are going, you know, the sleeves are fresh. There's always someone doing a 60-card pickup out there in that tournament.
Yep. So you got to give it a good shuffle beforehand, get your hands all sweaty, you know?
Yeah, there you go.
Get those cards sticky.
You know, I just naturally am a nervous player for that round 1, so I come with sweaty hands already. So, you know.
Look at that.
I'm already ready to go when it comes to these tournaments.
Well prepared.
Just figuring out where this card was supposed to be, it looks like.
Yeah, I think they're preserving some of the prior scries or whatever it might be. So Judge got it under control. They know what they're doing.
Yep.
That's why if you're ever at a tournament and anything weird happens at all, call a judge.
Yeah.
They've been there before. They know what to do. They'll fix it for you.
The amount of times when I call a judge on something I'm like 95% sure I know the answer to, like there's still a 5% chance that I don't know the answer to it. I want to double check, you know, like, because the worst thing is you play something, you make an action, and then you're like, well, I can't take this back now. And maybe you just lost a match for no reason. And that always feels real bad. More rolling Dragon Storms here to do some more manipulation of the hand. Still no Omniscience anywhere, and this can happen with this kind of deck, you know? And now there's no pressure from Jody. There's no Omniscience in the yard. This feels like a turn where Mitch untapped and is like, all right, maybe I can do something. But now Mitch needs to really get a threat down.
Yeah, the threat is number 1. And, yeah, you know, you kind of bite your teeth and grin and bear it for a turn or two, but that, contrary to popular belief, they don't always have it. So, you know, Jody's giving Mitch some time to get back in this game.
That is fair. Okay, so I did see Spell Pierce, Rest in Peace. Those are the scry. And then we have 3 steps ahead. So, you know, one thing you can do here, you can sack that Candy Trail, draw the Rest in Peace, play it. You could still get Spell Pierced, which is brutal. Or you just say go with 3 steps ahead, naturally draw Rest in Peace next turn, which I think I like a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, like, if you're not actually tagging an Omniscience with the ETB trigger on the Rest in Peace, and if Jody's hand has a bunch of cards in it that are not Omniscience, it's likely to be more Get Lost or whatever negates, whatever else it might be to deal with the Rest in Peace. So you can kind of wait, have your counterspell up, get a little more set up for next turn, and kind of just keep on rolling here and trying to find that elusive threat.
100%.
Of course, for Jody, we see the Blast Zone that was just played is another one of those answers to Rest in Peace and other various hate cards.
And that's just a land. I mean, Blast Zone is phenomenal in this deck.
Yes.
Because you have the time. You know, I think the only thing that would make Blast Zone better in the metagame right now is if it started at 0.
Yep.
Be able to deal with all these monks that are hanging around. But still pretty strong. So this usually happens when your opponent goes to do something on end step. You get this dragon in while you can. And now Mitch makes the decision to cancel it right now with the 3 steps ahead. And, you know, walk right into a Spell Pierce.
Wow, this is interesting.
This is interesting.
So choosing to fight over the card draw spell rather than hold it up for a thing. I think, like, cashing under the mana now is very, very appealing.
Yeah.
Like, not needing to leave up their mana for the next few turns is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But that's tough. You know, Jody's hand isn't made yet, but there's still a lot of cards behind. There'll be stock ups and stuff. So
yeah. And here's the risk too. Like, if Jody has just 1 negate and didn't care about this card draw, you cast this Rest in Peace, it gets negate, and now you can't back it up. Like, that's the train wreck scenario that we easily could see right now. Now we'll see if that Spell Pierce was left on top as well from Mitch. If so, you kind of have that answer. But nope, Rest in Peace has resolved.
Mitch's got to get a threat in play.
Yep, and just doesn't have one, I don't think.
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of a threat. You can craft with the artifact, and it eventually does something that I never see it truly do, but...
Yeah, it's I believe it's 7 mana. It turns over, makes 2 1/1s, and then it's a glorious hand and foil creature.
Yeah, so it makes 4 power.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there are the maps in play to craft. Usually you craft from your graveyard. There are no graveyards, but the maps can do that just as well.
Yep. So that is real. That could matter. But when can you tap out against this deck? It makes it a little easier to tap out when there's a Rest in Peace in play. Don't get me wrong.
You got the old Thousand Moon Smithy here. So this is a
one of in the list.
legendary artifact that will make one of those construct tokens by itself.
Okay.
And that's the ability where you can tap 5 artifacts and make it into a land where every spell you cast will make another one of those artifact things. So it is definitely not the this is the bench player. This is the 6-man. Not the primary threat, but
yeah,
it's Mitch needs anything right now.
Exactly.
Mitch will go down to the YMCA and pull a guy off the court there. Someone's got to shoot some shots here.
Might even get us in the game, and we're both injured. So.
I know, right?
All right, gets it down. End step. Jody just cranked up the blast zone. And now, you have that answer to Rest in Peace right now. And then you can try to get an Omniscience into the yard to kind of threaten that. But Jody Keith can't win the game this turn. So, looking pretty solid here at the moment here for Mitch.
Yeah, a lot of steps that Jody has to go through here. Get rid of Rest in Peace, get all the missions down.
Yep.
And then that gives Mitch some time. A creature plays pretty large. And with the amount of mana that Mitch has, too, flipping bricks and then having a negate or a spell pierce or something like that is within the realm possibility.
Yeah. Would it tilt you that you have to bring a gnome soldier artifact and a construct, even though they're the same?
It's actually a gnome?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's a gnome soldier artifact creature token, so it's not a construct.
Oh, my God. All right, well, we got no more gnome here. Gnome's going to jail.
Okay.
Oh, my God.
Everything is locked down. And here we go. I bet we're going to see a 10-drop in the yard. Bang. Not it.
Nope. Elusive. Jody's been through almost half a deck at this point.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, but again, that happens, in a long tournament, 9 rounds in day 1, 15 rounds total.
Yep.
Sometimes you're going to have the game where all 4 omniscience are in the bottom 4 cards, or bottom 20 cards of your deck, or whatever.
Sure.
4 cards, 20 cards, whatever. Somewhere down there.
Yeah, there's somewhere. But, the one thing, it doesn't happen often, but you can cast that card. You play 10 lands in your deck.
Corey?
Yeah.
I hope today somebody casts an omniscience on
Jody's 2 lands away.
I want to see
Jody's at the door, knocking to hard cast this.
That is one I have not seen yet in playing a good amount of standards. So bring it on. Let's go.
There's nothing that, Magic chatters love more than a hard cast of a very expensive blue enchantment.
Yep.
Get the Shark Typhoon in play. Get Omniscience in play.
Yep.
It's what we all live for.
And the issue here has been all game is Mitch just doesn't really have a threat. There's nothing really going on. Jody's got all the time in the world.
All right, we got another little threat here from Jody. So Jody did bring in more than just the voices. Gets that 3/3 flyer.
Yeah, Clarion Conqueror will be able to turn off the activated abilities of artifacts, which I think is somewhat relevant here. More of an answer to Ghost Vacuum a lot of the time.
Pretty good against the Fabricator, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's nice. But yeah, Ghost Vacuum, that's a solid one. And I love decks that, can be a combo deck and you can have a little bit of a plan B. Now, this is a combo deck that game 1, it's a plan A deck.
Yeah.
There's not the plan B is the River Regents, which is great, but when you have post-board Clarion Conqueror, River Regents, Voice, maybe a couple of the Overlords, that's a true plan B. And like you said, it's the distraction while you set up your true win con.
Yeah, and honestly, Mitch's game is going so poorly here. His Dinosaur might get it done. Mm-hmm. Dragon, sorry.
It looks like a dinosaur.
It's funny because, we were joking about Clayfire bricks being not really of a threat. The lockdown on those bricks and maps is actually a huge deal.
Oh, yeah.
Because back-to-back brick turns would have been 2 2/2s and then 4 3/3s.
Yeah.
That's an actual clock.
It really is. And I like that, we get that blast zone up to 3. You really don't want to blow it up, obviously now, but there are times when you can blow up your own lockdown, get some value from your own rolling deep. So lockdown can be this proactive thing that you can play in this deck as well when you have cool enchantments that help you out at the 2 or less slot.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see a lot of that, honestly, over the course of this weekend.
Yeah.
There are Orzhov decks built around that, too.
Yep.
And then also, honestly, a lot of decks that are not necessarily struggling against lockdown, but can try and build their deck in a manner where that happens. But it's fireworks time.
Here it is, and Mitch said, yeah, it's about time you have that there. And, you know, it's a vulnerable creature. It can be killed, but look at how the game has played out. Both players exhausted each other of resources, where eventually when Jody stumbles into it, it's just going to be trivial to win from this spot, and that looks like how this game is going to end.
Yeah, Jody's cast a few too many stock-ups to be able to miss here,
yeah,
I think. But we're going to combat.
Okay.
Maybe we're going to play on here.
Maybe.
I want to see Omniscience attack for lethal.
There we go.
That's what I want to see.
Crank it up.
Oh, yeah, beatdown time. Let's go.
I like that we tap mana for that one.
That's pretty funny.
That is funny. So what is in hand from Jody? It must not be many cards.
Yeah, I mean, we got 4, 5, 6, 7 power in play, 2-turn clock.
Yeah, no kidding. That's a beatdown. And just nothing from Mitch. Now Mitch, most of the draws are dead. Like, you need, like, multiple perilous snares, get lost, stuff like that. Things that you just really don't have in your deck, nor should you. So this isn't going to be playing from behind very well, I would imagine.
Yeah, it would require the perfect Battlefront, and I don't even know. I mean, the one Kayla's Reconstruction. That is a card that can get a lot of cards with a lot of mana.
Very true.
I could imagine a perfect Kayla's for 7, hit all 7 cards, go nuts. But yeah. But definitely a tough spot here for Mitch, who's being beaten down by a 1/1 Omniscience.
I love it.
What a way to start the day. Oh, yeah.
All right, probably the last draw step here of the first match. Outside of something phenomenal, like you were saying, from Mitch. And, so far, both players, I think, played this game quite well. And, Jody's deck just came out on top, and it looked pretty good to me. Yeah,
I think that in the battle of there are not that many or no copies of our key card of a top 30, Synth for Mitch, Omniscience for Jody.
Yeah.
That match favors Jody significantly.
100%. Because you need setup with Synth. Like, you don't need any setup with Umbrella. It's like, you play it, you're winning.
Right.
Of course you need setup where it has to be into the yard, but either way, it has an immediate impact when you cast it, where, the constructs, they take at least one turn to be able to get going.
Yeah, when one player is playing Clayfire, Bricks, and Candy Trail, one player is playing Stock Up and Sift.
Yeah.
The velocity there is certainly on the combo side. So big think on the snare. There are many, many viable targets.
Yeah, I was like, you got to take the 1/1. Get it out of there.
I mean, that being said, there's still 6 power in play. So.
Yep. Not lethal quite yet, but a solid 2-turn.
And that's the fear of the lockdown, where lockdown has the 2 bricks, the Rest in Peace and the Iron Crag on it. It also has the Dragon Storms too. So if Mitch wanted to free those bricks, free the Rest in Peace, Jody gets a ton of draws and a ton of looks.
Yeah, if you want to make that move. There is the attack, down to 1. And we'll see if Mitch has that Kayla's Reconstruction. That's got to be the number one thing.
Yeah, it's one big Kayla's for the world.
And is those 2 cards enough? Stop these 2 threats?
Nope.
And it was not. Finally found it.
It found the synth finally, yeah, but a little too late, unfortunately.
A little too late indeed. All right, so match number 1 goes to Jody Keith.